Good morning, everyone. Welcome to day 2 of Connecting America here on the USA Today streaming channels. I'm Alisyn Camerota alongside Jim Rosenfield at Sunrise Diner in Roselle Park, New Jersey.
First question, where's our coffee?
I know, what's happening?
It's
TikTok.
just water only, but we're going to get Java going.
I can actually get us some.
I'm sure you can.
I have this place wired now.
Brew it up.
Yeah.
Brew it up. All right, we made it through our premiere episode yesterday without a hitch. Let's not jinx it. Now we are the longest running diner cast in the history of streaming, Alisyn.
Setting records, breaking records.
Huge
here.
milestone.
Yeah.
And like any diner, first things first, we want to check out the menu, if you will, some of the stories on our plate.
Stop.
Up first, this one really doesn't mix too well with your breakfast fare. And we wish really we could wait to give you the details until you finish maybe your breakfast cereal.
I don't remember approving this as our first story, but the screw worm is back. I'm not kidding. This is a flesh-eating parasite in the U.S. It has been detected here in at least one person. Happy to report that person recovered, but this can be very serious, and we need to tell you about it because if it spreads to cattle and wildlife in this country, it could affect all of us.
Important to note, as you said, the patient recovered, but as I understand it, this is the first case of it associated with travel to a country that has had an outbreak here in the U.S.
It's really alarming. Apparently, we eradicated it in the U.S. in 1966, but it's, in this small corner, it is back. And so particularly farmers are really worried because this could devastate livestock.
I've seen the number of $1.8 billion impact in Texas alone.
Yeah. Here's what I want to tell you guys. Don't look this up online.
No,
just listen to us. Okay.
advice.
We're going to keep you posted on this because it is such a revolting looking little parasite or insect.
I told you not to look at the
I
pictures.
know you did. I
And how it operates
unfortunately
either.
didn't listen.
Yeah.
And then what happens to the I'm just going to say that I found that the this particularly evocative infected animals have painful wounds and a foul odor. You're welcome, America.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on for now. It's back to school season, everybody.
Better.
And it is a little different this year for many people. Our partners at USA Today, they're breaking down all the big changes for this school year, from the USDA's new sugar rules, what you can eat at school, to vaccine opt-outs, to also some policy changes when it comes to DEI. We're going to be joined by USA Today's education reporter, Jacques Chermelet, who co-wrote an article about all of that.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting because there are also, school could look very different. Some kids and their families and their teachers have been deported.
Yeah, that's an issue. Where did they go? And that's something we've never really had to think about in the past.
That's right.
And also start of school is stressful enough for parents and kids, right? We've all been there. And now you have to wonder, do I get my kids vaccinated or not? Which vaccine should they have? And so we want to ask you our question of the day. What is your biggest concern about sending kids back to school? Is it cuts we're seeing to free lunches, vaccine opt-outs, DEI mandates, or school security? Lots of choices there today for you. What do you do, Alisyn?
You can scan that QR code right there on your screen and vote. Let us know. In terms of the DEI mandates, I mean, they're doing away with them. The federal government, as you know, the Trump administration is trying to squash those. And so, they might also disappear, which means that some teachers might disappear, some classes that your kids took. So it's definitely going to the landscape is going to look different this September than ever before.
And there's that tug of war between the Department of Education and local school districts, which say we have control over how we teach our kids and what we teach our kids. So we're going to dive into that for you.
Also, first, immigration is once again dividing the country, the hot button issue at this moment. So can the Trump administration deport people to other countries, okay, rather than their own country? That's a big question. Here's why we're talking about it this morning is because ICE was planning to deport this, Kilmar Abrego Garcia. The Trump administration alleges that he was connected to MS-13, that gang. Various courts have looked into it and police. That has not yet been corroborated. They want to deport him. Remember, he was deported to that very dangerous prison in El Salvador. Then
his home country, yes.
Then he was brought back because courts got involved and said that he had been wrongly deported. The Trump administration had to bring him back. He got back and then was virtually immediately arrested again, just days after reuniting his family. And now the Trump administration, as I said, is threatening to deport him to Uganda.
Yeah, and there's this whole question of whether you can deport someone to a third country, and the courts are weighing in. They're saying, "Hang on, He's not going anywhere right now." So we're watching this closely. And there's the map for you, in case you're wondering where the heck is Uganda. It's 8,300 miles from El Salvador, his home country. It's on the other side of the world. That federal judge said yesterday the government cannot deport him just yet. So there's a temporary hold to block that deportation, but he is still in detention. Yeah.
It's so confusing. I mean, the Trump administration really has it out for Kilmar Abrego. I mean, you have to wonder, well, we'll ask our guests, is this the best use of ICE and our taxpayer dollars?
Why don't we bring in our immigration expert, attorney Darren Smallcombe. Darren, thanks for being here this morning on Connecting America. We really appreciate your insights on these complicated stories. Explain these third country agreements, if you would, where they offer their jails to house these immigrants, and they're being paid to do that by the U.S., correct?
Yes, they are in most cases. Third-party agreements is where somebody has been ruled removable from the United States, but they can't be removed to their home country. And this is the case with Abrego Garcia. Some years back, about 6 years ago, he wasn't granted asylum, but he was granted a lower level of protection called withholding of removal. And what that order said is that although you don't qualify for asylum, we're not going to deport you to El Salvador, your home country, because there's more than a 50% chance that you could be extorted or harmed in some way or persecuted. And so there was an order that said anywhere but El Salvador. And usually what that means is that this person is going to remain in the United States during that time, perhaps indefinitely. Now,
so Darren, why then are judges refusing to go along with this? What's the hiccup here?
Well, now we get into the legal kind of thick of things. So we have two different courts now that are going kind of in different directions. You have the immigration court that says he could be deported anywhere but El Salvador. And then you have a different federal court, which has entertained what they call a habeas corpus motion, which is control over the body. Is he being held legally for this deportation? And that's the challenge that's going on right now. Not whether he can be removed, but can he be removed to Uganda? And the courts are going to force a hearing probably on that issue.
How common is this? Is there precedent for this?
It's very uncommon. And we have to look at the big picture here. You see, 2019 El Salvador versus 2025 El Salvador were a lot different. And had the government come to the court to reopen the case saying, hey, look, El Salvador doesn't have a gang problem anymore, we could remove him now, the court probably would have agreed, but they didn't. But for whatever reason, if it was a mistake, they sent him down there. So now it's one of these high-profile cases that everybody knows about. And so I think the Trump administration is looking at it as an opportunity rather than a setback. And that opportunity is to tell everybody else that's in the United States that may not be here lawfully that you could be deported to Uganda or the prison in El Salvador or whatever it may be. And this inspires people to self-deport, which is the ultimate goal. It's the only way this administration will deal with the numbers of people that we have in the United States. It won't be by enforcement. It won't be through the courts. It'll be inspiring people to deport themselves.
Darren, that's really an important point that I want to underscore, because they've made him the poster child of basically illegal immigration and deportation, though he, as you point out, Darren, is here legally. He came as a minor, and a judge has allowed him to stay here legally. He's not a U.S. citizen, but he is here legally. And so the idea that he is the person that the Trump administration is focusing on and pouring all of these ICE resources and taxpayer dollars into is interesting, other than just a political point that they're making.
Right. Well, I mean, legally as a kind of a matter of perspective in here, there was 8 years between his entry and the time that he did have a court hearing. And that withholding removal is generally temporary. I've had those before for people that say, I had a young woman that we weren't going to remove to Afghanistan because it would have been a death sentence. But at the same time, the government decided to hold her for a while to make a point. It's not that it's necessarily fair. It's just you haven't been granted asylum, which is a path to citizenship, which is a forever deal. you've been granted temporary withholding. And so, yeah, they made it in the poster child, whether they wanted to or not. Now they're trying to make the best of the situation.
Yeah, and I know his lawyers are arguing Uganda may not be any safer for him. Lots of questions about human rights abuses there. We're going to watch this closely, of course, and we appreciate your insights on it there.
Happy to be here.
Thanks so much. All right, more news. One day after a deadly strike on a hospital in southern Gaza, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is calling this a tragic mishap. This strike killed 22 people, including 5 journalists, also medical staff, also rescue workers. The international outrage about this is building. Meanwhile, the Israeli military says it has launched an investigation. Yeah.
Yeah, the chief spokesman there said that they've instructed that this inquiry get underway to understand exactly what happened, how it happened, and that they importantly say they regret any harm to individuals who are not part of Hamas. But speaks to the issue that Israel constantly raises, which is that Hamas uses these facilities, hospitals, where people are going to get care, and they use them for their own use as well. So putting civilians at risk. Whether that's the case here remains to be seen.
Let's bring in our foreign correspondent, Amy Kellogg. So, Amy, this is so upsetting. I mean, obviously, these journalists are not the first to be killed, nor are these medical workers, but 5 journalists killed in this one strike, and that falls on the heels of the Al Jazeera journalists just weeks ago being killed. And I know that you're no stranger to danger zones as well. Give us the latest.
Yeah, Allison. Well, there were actually 2 strikes. And from the first strike there at Nasser Hospital in Khan Yunis in Gaza, from the video that we saw anyway, it certainly looked like a camera position was targeted. And then the second strike, when presumably rescue workers and journalists would be flocking to either help or document events, came down. So a lot of people, including some human rights advocates, are saying that they think that journalists were, in fact, the targets of this attack. Now, Palestinian journalists are the only ones who are there reporting on the atrocities going on. Foreign journalists are not allowed to go in. Some of the 5 journalists killed yesterday did work for the news agencies AP and Reuters, who have written a letter. They've published it to the Israeli government. They're demanding answers, saying that they are skeptical that they will get them based on past history, and also the fact that it will be the military investigating itself. And they also said it does raise questions about whether, because there was a live feed going on that balcony towards near the roof on the hospital, it raises questions about whether actually live feeds are being targeted in order to suppress information. As you guys pointed out, Prime Minister Netanyahu has called it a tragic mishap. But there was a quote from one Israeli general today circulating that said that Israel believed it was actually a Hamas camera that was filming Israeli defense positions. Now, given what we know about the Israeli military's brilliant precision, I mean, they went in and took out a Hamas operative in a guest house in Tehran in recent months, and then blew up 1,000 Hezbollah pagers across Lebanon. Also recently, it does make you wonder how they couldn't differentiate someone doing a live feed for news agencies from a militant cameraman. But at this point, of course, we only know what we know. And as journalists, we will all be hoping for some clarity on this going forward.
What was so remarkable about it, Amy, was the fact that before the second strike, there were journalists there who were filming, as you say. There was a live feed, so we actually see that video of the second strike as it happens in portions of the hospital. Remarkable.
Yeah, it really was quite dramatic, and it was clearly a news feed that was going on. Now, again, we'll be waiting for more information and findings, but it certainly has resonated as something that
The chief
goes
of the general
against
staff
international
has
law in terms of
instructed that
targeting
an
journalists, if
inquiry
that's
be
what happened.
conducted.
So, a hard day for the international press community who cares about the fate of their colleagues.
Yeah, Amy, I don't have to tell you, 200 journalists have been killed during this war. That's just a staggering amount. And we're going to talk to you later in the program about your experience and all of the dangerous places that you've been, from Afghanistan and onward, and the close calls and the friends that we've lost. And so to
Yep.
see this happening again is, really heartbreaking. And I appreciate all the context that you're giving about how the Israeli military does have precision. And so it's hard to understand how this could happen if it wasn't intentional. Amy, thank you very much. We will talk to you
Thank you.
very soon.
Yeah, and as we mentioned, international outrage has been building over this particular incident. Coming up in our next half hour, we're going to be talking to get a sense about how Israelis are feeling. We'll be speaking to Israeli-American David Sussman. He's a former IDF soldier. He's the host of a popular TV show in Israel, and he's also a popular Israeli tour guide. So he has some keen insights on what the feeling is within Israel, and there's a lot of division within the state of Israel itself.
Yeah, I look forward to talking to him. Okay, so in other news, we are following several big weather stories as we get closer to Labor Day weekend.
AccuWeather meteorologist Alex De Silva is joining us with more. Alex, what's on your radar?
Yeah, thank you. Well, it's been certainly a busy hurricane season so far. We've seen 2 direct impacts on the United States. We saw Chantal, which moved up into the Carolinas, and then Erin, while remaining about 200 miles offshore, still was such a large enough storm that it was still able to bring direct impacts to the Carolina coastline. So we're off to a pretty hot start here. Again, 6 named storms. Now, the 7th named storm, the average time of that would be September 3rd. So we're right around on pace right now for the season so far. But the big number that we've seen so far is the direct U.S. impacts. We've seen 2 so far, and the seasonal forecast calls for 3 to 6 direct impacts. That means we could see another 1 to 4 direct impacts for the rest of this upcoming hurricane season.
How's Labor Day looking generally across the country? Anything big brewing that we need to know about, Alex?
Yeah, well, we're going to have to keep a close eye out on the southeast coast. Now, typically we look for homegrown development early in the season and late in the season. Now, usually homegrown development is where a tropical system is able to develop close to the United States, whether that be off of an old cold front or a dip in the jet stream. But that's actually what we're going to be seeing here for the Labor Day weekend, I think. We're going to be seeing a big dip in the jet stream sagging across the southeastern United States, which is unusual for this time of the year. And so we're going to have to watch for a little bit of spin to potentially form off the end of that cold front. The time frame we're watching for development, August 29th to September 1st. And if we look at the graphic here, we can see that the southeast and especially Florida could be in the path here for some pretty significant rainfall. Could put a damper on those holiday plans down there. Now, we don't expect this to blow up into a hurricane if it develops at all. But if it develops, it's got a low chance right now. But either way, very heavy rain, I think, for portions of the Florida Peninsula, and then maybe up across the coastal Carolina region as well.
Alex, what's happening on the West Coast?
The West Coast, it's going to be hot still. We're still watching some of the wildfires out there, so that's something we're going to have to contend with across portions of California. So keeping a close eye out for the wildfires and some of that smoke that's been getting trapped in some of the valleys. We're also having some monsoonal thunderstorms across portions of Arizona and New Mexico. So we're going to have to watch some of those monsoonal thunderstorms. Dust storms have been reported at the Burning Man Festival a couple of days ago. So again, a lot of different weather across the West, from wildfires to monsoonal thunderstorms to dust storms.
Alex De Silva, thanks so much from AccuWeather. A lot to keep an eye on, those wildfires out west. So tough for those firefighters, the conditions they deal with. And then you layer on the heat on top of battling that smoke.
I know, it's awful.
Really tough.
All right, grab a cup of coffee, because up next, I'm going to go get us one,
Okay.
actually, Jim.
Priscilla?
Up next, we're joined by the mayor of Roselle Park, where we are right now, for his opinion on President Trump's proposal to send the National Guard into lots of cities, including perhaps yours. We'll be right back. I'm going to go grab one.
That's all right.
Right now.
Really?
Sure, yeah.
Okay. that?
Well, you got your coffee, thank
I
goodness.
did.
You guys, you're going to see a marked improvement in the show
All of a
starting
sudden,
right
it's a
now.
table for four,
Yeah.
Alisyn.
Yeah, where'd you guys come from?
We got company.
Yeah, we sure.
We have the mayor of Rosenfield Park, Joe Cigarola, is here. We welcome you back to Connecting America. So good to have you. And Mark Bonamo joining our
Mark
conversation.
snuck in as well.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Anybody need milk with their coffee?
You need some coffee.
You
I
need
do.
some coffee?
You know what? I'm caffeinated, guys. Don't worry about
Well
that.
caffeinated. All right.
So, Mayor, we love when you join us here at the diner. This is your town. You've been mayor for 7
Thank you.
years.
Yeah.
So it's just great and just to tell everybody a little bit, Roselle Park is 15,000 people. What's the status of crime, would you say here? Up, down this year?
Down. Yeah. I mean, it's been down broadly in the region for the last couple of years. I mean, look, everybody knows in the pandemic, I think we had sort of a hot spell of crime, right? People were locked in their homes. People were jobless without economic opportunity. That usually breeds more crime. But since then, we've done some really smart policing changes in New Jersey.
How so?
So actually, one of the things we're really proud of is it's called Arrive Together in New Jersey. One of the things that we found is pairing up certain responses with actual therapists really helps out.
Wow.
Yeah. So a lot of domestic disputes, a cop comes in, a cop does the best they can, but obviously they're not therapists, right? So bringing people in who are actually experts in diffusing the situation has led to a lot less arrests and a lot better outcomes for families.
What a success story.
Super
That
cool.
is really wonderful. I mean, it might be hard to implement in a big city.
Yep.
That sounds like a real human touch,
Yep.
that sort of almost community policing.
Yep.
So as you know, President Trump is threatening to send in the National Guard. He's already done it in DC. He's trying to do that
Yes.
to do it in Chicago and Baltimore. What are your thoughts?
I mean, I think it's terrifying, right? I mean, I think as Americans, we should all be terrified by this prospect.
But wait a minute
Yeah.
here, because if you're living in one of these cities and you feel like crime is out of control,
Yep.
that's the big debate.
Sure.
And you feel like, okay, bring in some manpower to at least stem this problem so we feel like we can walk at night. In Chicago, I have a friend who says, I don't walk in downtown Chicago at night anymore.
Because what's he afraid of? I mean,
Crime.
Just crime.
Yeah.
Being murdered, being pickpocketed. Like what's he just general crime?
I think maybe being mugged, assaulted, held up. So, if you live in one of these cities, some people might feel like it's a welcome respite and it gives us time to sort of reset and figure out how to tackle this problem. But obviously you don't feel that way.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think if that was the case, then he would be talking about sending these deployments to places with the actual highest crime in the country, right? It's a bald-faced political attack, right? Talking about this thing when it's New York and Chicago and not Kansas City, Missouri. It's because he's attacking political enemies. Red states historically, right? And I don't want to make this a partisan thing, but if we're going to talk about facts, we should talk about facts. Like historically and over the last 20 years, red states have had way higher crime rates than blue states. And some of the most dangerous parts in America are, Missouri, Nashville, right? Or sorry, Memphis, right? Like places that are in red states. But per usual, right? When Trump makes threats, he makes threats about people who didn't vote in his favor, right? We see this with infrastructure here. He never threatens any other infrastructure projects, but when he's mad at the New York area, he's always, pull the gateway funding.
Yeah, I think that's really good context that you say, because I think that, you can talk about the crime in Chicago, and there is crime in Washington, D.C., but it's good to keep it in context with other cities as well. And I know, Mark, you've done a lot of reporting on this too, around locally and in New York and what's happening with the crime here.
Absolutely. I mean, the only time in living memory that people remember the National Guard in the streets in Jersey City was in Newark during the infamous 1967 riot. Is there any situation, Mayor, that you ever feel it would be justified for the National Guard to be in the streets in your town?
It would have been justified to have the National Guard on January 6th, right? I don't think I've seen anything in my 7 years as mayor that would justify that. And then it's also, we were talking a little bit about this, right? Like the National Guard is not police. And I'm proud of New Jersey's police. They are fantastic at de-escalating, dealing with crime, and trying to get the best outcome from these situations, right? Given, right? Like we give our military a lot of training. They're not trained for day-to-day policing, and they're not trained to, handle these potential difficult situations when it comes up with residents.
But are they perhaps, going back to what I was talking about, a visual sort of deterrent to at least get control over what's happening on the streets and help police who are in these communities who need the help because they don't have enough manpower in many of these cities?
I do not think that it is appropriate to use as a visual deterrent our military, right? Like our country is founded on the fact that we're not supposed to be using our military on our land, right? So whether or not it's a visual deterrent, I think is outside of the fact. This nation was founded on a set of principles, and having the U.S. Army in the streets is not one of those.
And we should point out, D.C. is a different situation because
Correct.
he's the man in charge of the district, whereas individual cities, that would be the governor, for instance, who would call in or request
Yes,
help from the
technically.
guard.
I mean, technically, you're right, but I like what the mayor is saying, which is because I had to read about this, and I think it's a good reminder. The military, sometimes we think because they come with a gun, they're good at law enforcement. That's not what they're trained. They're trained for battle.
100%. Yeah.
Is it a tricky balance, do you find, in Roosevelt Park, as in other communities around the state and around the country, between the police and the community where there's often been tension?
People love cops, right? Like, I got to be honest with you. Like, I'm a Democrat. Like, there's been parts of my party that have talked about defunding the police, which is just a stupid line that we should never use again. I think when people were really talking about that, they were talking about actually, diversifying that funding to do things like we talked about, like arrive together. But people feel safer with cops around. I would say broadly, we have a great relationship, and especially in New Jersey, the cops do a great job of talking to our children, going in the schools early, right? So I gotta be honest with you, I think a lot of the tension that people see in the media is manufactured from, Twitter bots, right? Like, I don't think it's actually there, especially in states like this. Yeah.
So, Mayor, I have a switch in topic here for you. Have you ever been to Burning Man?
I've never been to. I'm very curious to hear where this is going.
We like to throw you some curveballs.
There we go. All right, I'm ready for it. Okay, go.
I don't know. I mean, you're young. I thought maybe you'd made it out to Burning Man.
I haven't.
Okay.
Yeah.
The reason I bring it up is because we're going to talk about that up next.
Okay, got it.
Have you seen what's going on out there?
I educate me this morning.
Okay.
I'm excited to know.
We
Stick
got
around.
some music, but we've also got dust. We've got a whole lot of chaos. Burning Man is back. We're going to take you out there. You're going to see what's going on.
I'm excited.
We'll be right back. Yeah, I've never been either, just to be clear.
Yeah, good. Yeah.
Welcome back to Connecting America, coming to you once again from the Sunrise Diner here in Roselle Park, New Jersey, dishing up the top stories from around the country.
When are you going to stop with the diner puns?
sorry.
How much longer do we have to endure this?
Oh, my
Never.
gosh.
Never.
I'll take it off the menu.
And now on to Burning Man. Tens of thousands of people are fighting dust storms and traffic jams in the Nevada desert at the annual music and arts festival known as
Ooh, that sounds fun.
Have you been, Mark? Ever?
No. I have not.
Alisyn, you've never been to Burning Man.
No, and I never will go. Look at this.
I
Look at
just
what
don't think
I
it
mean.
looks
Look at what
appealing.
that
No,
looks
it's
like
an
right there.
endurance test
Rain,
each year.
wind,
Rain, God.
dust.
Drivers waiting up to 16 hours to get in.
Yeah,
No,
there was
thank
a
you.
line of cars,
Right.
and the dust was swirling.
No, organizers say conditions remain unstable there for the next 2 days, but the show must go on.
80,000 people. That sounds awful. I love live music, but I don't need mud
That
and
much
wind
company.
and dust.
Yeah.
That much
And it might
company.
be crazy there, but it's not free. Tickets start at $550 and up to $3,000.
Okay, let us know what you think about that. I think there's an easier way to go to a music festival. There's lots of
There's
wonderful
tons of
live
them.
music festivals
Yeah.
right now, particularly in New Jersey and along the
Yes.
East Coast, and I love going to those. But that one
Yeah.
sounds like a little bit more apocalyptic than I need. All right, moving on. Florida kids, the Florida Attorney General says that social media companies cannot speak for kids in court as legal battles intensify over minors' online access. This is a lawsuit that is challenging a state law which restricts online access for children under 16. So you remember that's, a controversial law, like whether or not under 16 you should be able to go
Get
on
on
your
there.
phone and go online. So the AG there is asking a judge to dismiss the suit, saying that social media companies have no legal standing to sue on behalf of minors. This law was passed in October, but it has been bogged down in court battles, as you can imagine.
I often say, I'm glad my kids are a little older now, because if I had younger kids dealing with these things
Yeah.
constantly, I mean,
I know.
it's a double-edged sword. You want to be able to stay in touch with your kids, but the access to everything, I think the solution maybe if they're really young is a phone without access to internet.
Right. It's a true battle to wean
Yeah.
people off their screens. It's addictive.
It is addictive. I mean, my kids and I have talked about this. I had, 3 teenagers, and they were at a tender, ripe age when, social media came to the fore. And we've talked about it and likened it to cigarettes. It's the same type of
Right.
thing where in our generation, we were like, yeah, we knew it was bad, but everybody did it. And my kids have said that they can imagine telling their kids, oh, yeah, we all did it, but we knew it was kind of rotting our brains and really bad for our self-image. And so they have weaned themselves off a little bit.
Yours
of it.
have?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
How do they do that?
They did it just by shutting, they realized like compare despair. And so on social media, you just can't be scrolling all the time because they felt that it affected their mood.
Right.
So they just started putting it aside
Right.
a little bit more. And not completely. I mean, they're
Right,
not
yeah.
off it completely, but they
Right.
definitely have
Right.
toned it down.
Mood,
proud of
sleep,
those
everything.
kids.
Yeah,
Right.
for sure.
Right?
I am.
Shout out to Alisyn's
Yeah.
trio back home. All right, let's go back to one of our lead stories of the day, talking about that massive fallout after an IDF strike on a southern Gaza hospital reportedly killed 22, including rescuers and 5 journalists in this latest strike. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is calling this a tragic mishap that Israel, in fact, regrets. But it comes at a time when Israel's prosecution of the war in Gaza is definitely under the microscope. Anti-Israel sentiment is seen around the world, with the international community demanding an end to this nearly 2-year war. And in fact, we've seen Israelis themselves taking to the streets, calling for a ceasefire in Gaza, and also calling for the release of the remaining hostages still held by Hamas. So let's bring in David Sussman. He's a native Bostonian, as am I, by the way. Lived his entire adult life in Israel, though. He's the host of the TV show Land of the Bible. He's one of Israel's most popular tour guides. David, thanks so much for being here on Connecting America. Good morning.
Good morning to you. Thank you so much for having me on your platform. I think it's great. You give such a platform to a variety of people so their voices can be heard, and I appreciate you allowing me to join you this morning.
Well, thanks, David. We really appreciate you being here. So we were talking to our correspondent, Amy Kellogg, earlier, where she was giving us context. 5 journalists, rescue workers, 22 people, rescue workers, medical staff. She was saying that it's hard to imagine that this wasn't targeted because of the precision of the Israeli military and the way they conduct their strikes. What's your take on all of this?
So I don't know if Amy's going with her own personal opinion on the matter, or if that's where she picked it up somewhere else. I think it's very hard to judge any military based on their tactical capabilities. For sure, Israel has some incredible weaponry. They are able to hit precise locations. We've seen it throughout this war, whether the battlefield was in Gaza, whether it was in Lebanon, whether it was in Iran. We were able to hit, particular rooms and apartment buildings that eliminated threats without causing very much collateral damage. All of this is true to sort of give the idea that Israel targeted specifically journalists, innocent civilians, I think is
Yeah, David,
extremely.
and David, let me correct myself. I inserted targeted. Amy was talking about the precision. So how do you explain the precision and yet this death toll of civilians and journalists?
Right. I mean, I don't know if I could, come to as an expert and explain how this happened. What I can say though, and just, looking at the facts and looking at the broader picture over the course of the last 2 years that we've been fighting this war since October 7th, is that a lot of the news that has come out of Gaza, specifically from Hamas, has been led to misinform the public. And not to say that this act did not occur. I think it's obvious that there were people who were killed. I think it's also important to realize that these hospitals in Gaza, journalists in Gaza have also been acting, whether it's the hospital, as a terror base for Hamas, a place where hostages have been kept captive, and a place where rockets have been fired from. I think it's important also to realize that there have been multiple documented incidents where there have been people in the uniform of a journalist who have been fighting against Israel, against the IDF, and against the civilians of Israel as well. So I think the issue is a lot more complicated than just saying Israel targeted a hospital and 5 journalists were killed. I think there's a lot of background information over there that gives the complexity of what this war that is taking place is all about, and also how it's being conducted.
David, can you talk to us about the mood in Israel itself as this war drags on? And we've seen those protests, people in the streets who are not exactly supportive of Benjamin Netanyahu and how the war is being carried out. What do you get the sense the mood is there in terms of divisiveness now?
Well, there's really 2 parts to that. There's like the mood of Israel, and then there's the feeling amongst many Israelis that they're not happy with our premier, with our prime minister. And I think it would be wrong to kind of blur those lines. I think that the mood in Israel is very optimistic. I think that the mood in Israel, also at the same time, when you look at the overall population of 9 million plus people who live there, I think most people are happy. Generally speaking, I think everybody can sort of pick apart their bits and pieces that they're not happy with this war. But I think most people generally are happy with the ability, with the amount of international pressure and the complexity of the situation, the fact that Hamas fights in civilian clothing, that they put themselves amongst civilian population, that they fight from hospitals, that they fight from schools, that they have fought from UN places, that they've disguised themselves as being members of the press, or disguised themselves as being part of humanitarian aid organizations. And as a result, Israel attacks these individuals, and sometimes mistakes are made, and innocent people within the press or within international aid organizations are unfortunately killed in that situation. However, in Israel, the mood is optimistic, but at the same time, an optimistic saying that, hey, we're going to get our hostages home first and foremost, and also in addition to that, the importance of getting rid of Hamas. The fact that people want to have a ceasefire, let Hamas stay in power, give them billions of dollars again, because this has been happening now for literally decades. I mean, Hamas
Right.
has been in power for 2 decades. Let's give them billions of dollars so they can rebuild Gaza.
But at
And
the
what are they
same
going to do? They're going to
time,
build the terror tunnels again.
there's the punishment of Hamas, but there's also accusations that aid has been weaponized against civilians, that the local population, the Palestinians, are being essentially starved. How is Israel going to be viewed by the world if this humanitarian crisis continues?
Yeah, I'm not. I would. You know what? The world is an interesting place. You just had a whole segment on social media. One of the things that social media has done is that people just love to surf information, right? They just like to kind of be on the surface of all the information rather than taking a deep dive and going in and trying to figure out the facts and, doing some follow up on their own. They're going to develop their thoughts based on the surface of the information that's being provided from various outlets and social media and even a news broadcast. We're going to talk for 3 minutes. How many of the viewers out there are now going to go and kind of research and say, hey, how many documented individuals who are working for the press were actually Hamas operatives?
But do you
So
acknowledge, David,
how's the
that there
world
is
going
a
to view it?
humanitarian crisis in Gaza right now? Do you acknowledge that fact?
Yeah, for sure, definitely. I mean, there's been a humanitarian crisis in Gaza for the last 20 years. I think since Hamas has been in power, there's been a humanitarian crisis. I'm not saying that there's not, a significantly larger humanitarian crisis. For sure, obviously, war is a terrible thing. I mean, do I think that the entire population of Gaza is starving? Do I think that the narrative that people have put out there over the last, couple of years? In fact, even the last time that we had this significant everybody in Gaza is starving, it was I think it was debunked as not being 100% accurate. So I think
David
that the
Sussman,
information that we're getting out of Gaza coming from Hamas isn't necessarily trustworthy.
a lot to unpack here. We appreciate your time this morning. We'll check back with you as hopefully this situation can ultimately
And I just want to quickly
be
just
resolved.
underscore what he said. Yes, that's true. Hamas's information is not trustworthy. That's why journalists go in there. That's why we need
they
journalists.
need to be in there.
And that has been banned. That's why these
Access is
Palestinian
very
journalists are in there
Yeah.
working for Al Jazeera or the Associated Press or Reuters. That's what they were trying to do. So I really appreciate David's perspective. I think that that's a really valuable one, and it was important to hear him because he was in the Israeli military and has fought for them. Yeah.
All right, we want to turn our sights back here at home. Coming up next, we're going to talk about rent or do we buy? That's the question. Realtor Mark Lawrence has some answers about what might be best economically right now when Connecting America comes right back. You pass the milk, please?
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Let's. Welcome back, everyone, to Connecting America. We are at the Sunrise Diner in Roselle Park, New Jersey. Obviously, we all know that bacon makes everything better. That's a truism. So we are going to figure out a way to bring home the bacon for you. And there's an interesting way to save money now.
Now you're the one with the puns.
Well, I mean, I'll allow a bacon pun every morning.
Mark Lawrence, welcome to the table here.
Thank you.
Yes, our real estate expert joining us this morning. First, though, we want to talk about some help making meals at home. Maybe this
Burritos.
Mhm.
Yes. And I feel like you could weigh in on this Chipotle situation.
They're taking their famous burrito line straight into your kitchen, Alisyn. Starting today, they're offering a build your own meal kit.
I like this.
It can serve 4 to 6 people.
That's fun.
Customize it if you want with proteins, your rice, you got your beans, you got your toppings. And then
Awesome.
you can pick up these kits from any Chipotle.
And
Here's-
how much does it cost?
Well, I'm glad you asked. $59 to $70. 4 to 6 people, though, get a meal out of this. Delivery is also available, but a little catch there. That costs a little extra.
Mark, do you want to have to pay to build your own burrito? I'm just curious.
The answer is no.
I knew you were
It
going to have a
can't
strong
happen.
opinion about
Absolutely not.
No?
No.
You
No,
want
listen.
someone to build it for you.
Well, actually, when I get it,
Yeah.
if I get it from the right place, it's done well.
Yeah.
I can't even wrap Christmas presents.
I
What am
see.
I doing building a burrito?
Good point. You don't trust yourself.
Absolutely
basically.
not.
Okay.
No.
You're not putting a premium on customization of the burrito.
Yeah. I mean, what do you
Listen,
think?
there's
Do you
a
like the
trade-off for
idea of
everything.
building your own at home?
Yeah, I'm never going to be able to roll it and tuck it in. And really
Quite right.
get it.
Right.
I think Sebastian Maniscalco is a great team. But
Okay,
just
I
putting
didn't-
enough guacamole.
I don't feel like you guys
that.
are giving yourselves enough credit. I think you could make a burrito, but I mean, baby
I know
steps.
myself. I know myself.
Okay.
And the nice thing is you can layer on the guacamole if that's your thing,
Right.
You know?
You can actually get extra guac without
Get
having to
extra
pay for
guac. Yes,
I
definitely.
just don't think you can go wrong with a burrito. I really think that even a bad burrito is a good burrito.
Everything can go wrong.
Okay.
It's Murphy's Law on burritos.
All right, let's talk about whether to rent or to buy. And,
Right.
for a lot of young people, that's a question they're facing right now. What's the best course of action? Heard it 1,000 times. Buy a home. It's building equity, but the numbers may be telling a different story right now. In many places, renting might be the smarter, more affordable move right now. Mark Lawrence is here to walk us through actually 5 cities
Yep.
where renting beats buying. Surprisingly, tell us about it.
Yeah, you always think the American dream is about owning a home, but in these 5 cities, you're getting a better deal from renting. Actually, there's flexibility in that you're not locked in long term. You could test a place. Plus, you don't have to ride the wave of the market. Sometimes markets go up and down. So
here's the number one.
Number one,
Yeah,
I love saying this. Number one is Detroit, not because I went to the University of Michigan, but just putting Detroit on the top of any list actually is a good thing. It makes me feel good. Besides the Motor City, it's a vibrant place for the theater and arts, surprisingly to some. But Detroit, if you rent, it's only going to cost, generally the difference between the cost of renting and owning is about 30 to 40%. So
what does that mean?
it's 30 to 40% more to own.
To own.
Because you're building
Because
equity.
you're building equity, right.
In these instances, the prices are a lot closer. Of course, we're not taking into account homeowners association fees,
Sure.
insurance.
So,
Yeah.
Here the flexibility in places like Detroit of renting, offers that flexibility.
Okay.
What's number 2?
Number 2, staying in the Rust Belt, is Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
I love Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh has gotten a bad rap in the past. It's a beautiful city.
It is.
Yeah.
Yes.
It has more bridges than Venice. Italy, shockingly. I don't know if you choose traveling to Pittsburgh over Venice.
Maybe.
But, you never know.
But,
To
well,
each his own.
so here, rent or buy?
There, actually, the cost of buying is actually cheaper than renting if you
Wow.
look at it. So, again, amazing to think that you're going to save money by buying. But again, in the long run, you're getting the flexibility and, the ability to say, hey, is Pittsburgh the right place for me?
Okay.
What's number 3?
Number 3 is Grand Rapids, Michigan. A lot of people don't know about it, but I feel bad without Briggs here saying it's the beer capital of the world, that he's missing out on that.
Dave Briggs, yeah.
Yes.
He'll be back Thursday.
Yep. Grand Rapids offers Midwestern charm, and it's a good place, again, where the cost of renting and buying is pretty similar.
So, but what does that mean? You buy or you rent there?
You rent,
should
actually,
rent. Okay.
yeah.
Got it. Okay, how about Lakeland, Florida?
Yep, Lakeland,
What's great
Florida.
about that
It's
and
known
fire
for its lakes. That's easy. It's also known for having a lot of swans. Queen Elizabeth II brought 2 swans there in the 1950s, and now tons of swans there. But again, a great place to check out, growing Florida community that a lot of people don't know about.
And this last one might surprise us. Tell us about it.
Yep. Surprise, Arizona.
Hey.
So it's really a surprise that it's actually about $321 less per month for renters. So not only
is that to own, owners pay less.
it's cheaper to own
It's
by
cheaper
about
to
$321 a month.
That is a surprise,
Yes,
Arizona.
that's a big surprise. Lots
Right.
of golf there, good for retirees, and some southwestern charm in the mountains.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay, those
So
are all
mark
great.
my words, it's actually in some places the American dream's alive, but it's better rent than
Okay, we should brand this Mark His Words. Because that's my
I've been
suggestion
working on
for
that
this
for a long
segment.
time.
Okay, well, we're going to do it here.
Thanks, Mark. And I think,
All right.
when you talk about renting or buying for young people, they're so, they just move around. They
Mhm.
don't get tied down. And I feel like they want maybe that flexibility of renting and seeing if they like a place before they decide to put it.
Makes
I was
sense.
just
So
talking to
there's
my
that,
nephew.
too.
He's in his 20s, and he was saying now is the time for him to rent. Why buy now?
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank
Laura.
you.
Hey, if you want to connect with us or follow us, you can find us on all over social media, Facebook, Instagram, the TikTok. Alisyn, are you on there?
Sort of.
Okay, yeah, me too. All that information right there on your screen.
All right, we'll be back at the top of the hour. The diner fills up then. I'll be roaming around. So will Mark talking to people. Stick around. That was great. I do feel like you're always a little Michigan centric. I do feel like
The views expressed in this program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views of USA Today or its affiliates.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Connecting America. I'm Alisyn Camerota alongside Jim Rosenfield and Mark Bonamo. So at 8 is where the diner starts to have people filtering in. I've noticed that people wake up a little later in USL Park, Mark. So,
lucky them,
But by like 8:45, I mean, yesterday it was hopping in here. So you'll be roving around talking to people as they filter in.
We love that part because we want to hear what people are thinking about. Some of the
it's critical
topics we're talking
Vox
about.
Populi. What are the people saying?
Yeah. And yesterday we heard a lot about talking civilly to people and being able to understand and listen to people with differing points of view. So,
and what I loved about that, you weren't leading the witnesses.
No.
That you would just say, "What's on your mind?" And people would say, "I wish that we could have civil conversations. I wish we could connect face to face. All that stuff." So, I mean, that's
and it pops right out.
Yeah.
One of the things you might want to talk to them about is flag burning. That's on top of mind this morning because there's a new executive order from President Trump. It is controversial, likely going to lead to a legal challenge. His order calls for up to 1 year in jail if you burn the American flag. The Justice Department is directed to prosecute these cases, even as the Supreme Court has ruled that flag burning is actually protected under the Constitution as freedom of speech.
So
Foreign nationals who burn flags, they're in a different category. They could lose their visas or their other immigration benefits. Of course, critics say this move runs directly into the First Amendment.
Right. So, of course, this will be challenged in the court. Of course, this will go up to the Supreme Court.
Sure.
You know, I was listening to a political analyst yesterday who was basically saying that part of what President Trump does and part of his genius in doing this is he makes these moves, he raises these issues, and that's it. It's more the effect than it is the outcome. In other words, he knows this will be challenged or the people around him know this will be challenged at the Supreme Court. And they're not even necessarily trying to win a Supreme Court case. They're trying to make the point, and that in itself is the political move.
But it's interesting, even on the far right, we were talking about this earlier, there are critics of his move to issue this executive order. They're not supportive of it. They feel like it's going too far. So, is he losing some of his base there with this kind of decision?
It is interesting when you see a division like that, for sure.
And there are politically strategic distractions, but then there is the rule of law. There were Supreme Court rulings in the late 80s, early 90s saying burning a flag is free speech. It has constitutional protections. And sometimes the idea of rule of law gets lost in the sauce when we're talking about Trump and some of his decisions.
And it's been discussed, of course, that, President Trump is, you think about him on The Apprentice, and he's a showman, if you will. And it does seem that the administration tries to each day roll out something that gains attention to keep him front and center.
And it does work to distract.
Yes.
For sure. It's masterful at distracting. I mean, not to bring up the Epstein files, but
we're not talking about it right now.
But exactly. We're not talking about it. And that had such a groundswell of people who were interested, and it chips away. All of these little distractions do chip away at that. Okay.
What else is going on?
Well, we have to tell you about this very gross story, and I'm sorry to do it right now. I'm going to make it quick, okay? But it is important for you to know about the first human case of a flesh-eating virus. I said not to show these videos. This is a flesh-eating virus. It has been now detected in the U.S. This is a so-called New World screwworm. Okay, it's a parasite. It was detected in a Maryland patient who had recently come back from El Salvador. The person, we are very happy to report, has recovered. However, health officials are concerned because if it gets into livestock, that's where the real dangers can cause. I mean, it causes all sorts of devastation.
Can wipe it out.
To cattle and to livestock, even your household pets, actually.
Have you read about how you combat this?
No. Do I want to know?
No, it's not terrible. It's not terrible. But I was
ahead.
reading about this last night. You release sterile flies, and they're actually planning to do this in Texas and Mexico, and then they mate, but because they're sterile, the eggs don't hatch, and slowly but surely the parasite dies off.
Oh, okay. I'm fine with that.
Got that?
Yeah.
I thought,
biology there for
I thought
you.
I was going to have to mix something up in my kitchen and ingest
But at the same
it.
time,
No,
this
no.
is nightmare fuel, right? Suddenly my eggs over easy are going down less easy. We're talking about
Mark.
this.
Sorry, Mark.
Oh, God.
Yeah. Okay, we'll get off that. Okay. Moving on. Now that you know that, we're moving on. Back to school. This, of course, is a big deal. It's an emotional time. It's melancholy, as we've talked about, Jim, this feeling in the air that a new chapter is starting. But this year is unlike any other for a handful of reasons. So kids are going to have a different experience going back to their public schools this year.
Yeah, we found this USA Today article really fascinating because it looks at why back to school this year is actually looking a little different. Zachary Shermale worked on this story as part of the education team at USA Today, and he's joining us this morning. We really appreciate you being here, Zach. So we talked about this. The start of the school year, it's stressful enough for parents and kids. So what are some of the big changes that parents need to be aware of right now, Zachary?
Right. Well, thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity. There are a number of things. I think there are a lot of controversial headlines that parents are paying attention to right now, but there are some relatively less controversial things that are happening with respect to the federal policy space and other things that are happening here in Washington that I think parents and students should be keeping an eye on. One of them is that school meals are already very nutritious and they're going to be getting more nutritious. Already have become more nutritious because the U.S. Department of Agriculture has finalized regulations to ensure that school meals are going to have limits on added sugars and things like cereal and yogurt. And then by the fall of 2027, Ag is also going to be implementing other regulations to put in place more reductions in things like sodium. Then there's also on the health front vaccines. My colleague Adriana Rodriguez, who's a health reporter at USA Today, worked with me on this story and saw that by her analysis of some national data, that parents nationwide are more alacritous to be deciding that their student have some form of non-religious vaccine exemption, which is pretty marked. And according to health experts that she and I talked to, that can be attributed to partly for vaccine misinformation that is spread online, but also because of some of the rhetoric that has been thrown around from officials at the federal level. So those are a couple of changes that parents can look out to in terms of what's happening this back to school season.
Yeah, you've got the split between the American Academy of Pediatrics and the Health and Human Services Secretary, RFK Jr., about whether kids, young children, should be vaccinated for COVID-19. So a lot of confusion if you've got those young children and what vaccine should I give them before they start the school year?
Yeah, I think that the other issue that Zach was talking about is very interesting about school lunches because sometimes those are inedible mystery meat, but they're trying to make them healthier, which everyone would applaud, and lower the sugar in them, which I think that parents like a lot. But it's funny because I do remember an era where, let's say, Michelle Obama was talking about making food healthier, and I remember some on the right when I was working at Fox saying this is the nanny state. Don't control what we eat. If we want a donut, I'm going to eat a donut. And then I would say Robert Kennedy Jr. is changing the dialogue on that.
I mean, that's why when you're working as a reporter and as a print reporter, you'll go to a city council meeting, you go to a planning board meeting, but those school board meetings are the ones that get particularly fiery because you're talking about issues that directly affect people's children.
You seeing that, Zach?
Oh, certainly. I used to be a reporter in North Central Montana, and I hear from my friends who still are reporters there and attend those school board meetings, and they've just gotten feistier and feistier over the years. And I also think part of that is due to the administration's outsized focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion. That's another piece that we looked at for this story. And, the education department really has never demanded as much as it is demanding from both K-12 schools and colleges as it is right now. Back in March, the education department issued some guidance that essentially said every K-12 school in the country, public school, you have to certify that you are no longer going to be implementing any form of diversity, equity, and inclusion program, you have 2 weeks. You got to tell us this, or you're going to lose your federal funding at some point in the future, which is really an unprecedented demand, and something that played out over the course of last spring, and then also into this summer. It's just another reminder of exactly how much the federal government is shaking up its
Yeah.
approach to education policy in these
But Zach,
times.
what will that mean? I mean, visually, how will that be manifest in the classroom? Will kids notice the difference in that?
Well, like many things with respect to what's happening with the Trump administration's relationship with all sorts of institutions, this is something that's been put on hold by a judge. It was deemed unlawful, in fact, by a federal judge in mid-August, and then was on hold previous to that because of an injunction. It's not entirely clear, Allison, what kind of effect something like this would have. One, because I say it's unprecedented, but also because, I mentioned that the education department said that school districts and state educational agencies had to certify that they weren't engaging in DEI. According to court documents, a lot of state educational leaders in places like New York, even Utah, uh, told the federal government, okay, we'll comply with federal civil rights laws, but according to our interpretation of federal civil rights laws, DEI is entirely lawful. But it's a nebulous term, right? And it's been extraordinarily politicized. So I think it depends largely on where you are in the country. If you're in a redder state and school district like Montana, right, where I used to work as a reporter, and if you're sending your kids to school in a place like New York or California, it's different in that respect.
I
That's
know.
really helpful,
I
Zach.
know there are also concerns. We're going to let you go, Zach, about cuts to free meals, cuts to the SNAP program, and parents worrying. Will we still get access to those meals? Also, federal grants up in the air from the federal government. So, good luck to you. If you've got kids who are heading back to the classroom, we hope it's a great year for you, despite all of that noise.
Yeah, and our thanks to Zach. That was great
yeah.
context. I learned a lot there.
Brings us to our question of the day, Alisyn. What's your biggest concern about sending your kids back to school? Is it these cuts to free lunches, vaccine opt-outs, DEI mandates, school security? Right now, those last three are running about neck and neck. Nobody weighing in about the cuts to free lunches.
We'll see about
We'll
that
see.
now that people are waking up
Yep.
across the country. You can scan that QR code that you see on your screen right now, and you can vote in this. And we would love to hear your thoughts on this throughout the hour. We will check in with that. All right. Meanwhile, we want to tell you what's happening around the world because international outrage is building. This is a day after an Israeli deadly strike at a southern Gaza hospital. Among the dead are 5 journalists. There are also medical personnel who were killed and rescue personnel who were killed. The Committee to Protect Journalists says that the war in Gaza has been the deadliest one for members of the press. I think 200 journalists
and
have
our
been
own
killed so far.
Amy Kellogg has had her share of covering these kinds of conflicts. She's joining us once again from Milan, Italy, with more about some of your personal perspective on what it is like to be in these kinds of situations. Very, very tense, obviously.
Yeah, well, first of all, I'd like to get a word in about Miriam Daga, one of the journalists killed yesterday, because I spoke to someone who knew her, and he told me that she had recently given a kidney to her father to save his life. She'd evacuated a son to the United Arab Emirates so that he would be safe. And I looked at her Instagram feed yesterday, and she'd put up a post when that other group of journalists killed earlier in the month. There were 6 of them on another bloody day. She lost a colleague who was dear to her, and she wrote that the laughter had dried up in her heart. And I really, guys, thought anyone who can maintain a sense of humor in a situation like that really has a resilience, which I think speaks to a lot of these war correspondents. Now, personally, I spent some time in Gaza during the second Intifada, which was 20 or 25 years ago. And I shared some photographs just to bring you back kind of to Gaza through the ages. And there should be one of me looking at an enormous plate of baklava, which is really kind of haunting now because it was from a bakery in the building where we used to work in Gaza. the building no longer exists. Of course, the bakery doesn't, and I think there it is. The baklava probably is impossible to find in Gaza. I've also got some pictures there of a refugee camp in Gaza. That's Adam Petlin, a Fox News cameraman who tragically died a couple of years ago of cancer, but he was intrepid, covering all sorts of humanitarian crises. The picture you saw with me at a camera was waiting for Yasser Arafat to come out and speak to him. And that was just a couple days before I actually got caught in a crossfire, which was so frightening. And these people experience that on a daily basis. Also, Olaf Wig, one of our cameramen from Fox, was kidnapped in Gaza in 2006 for 2 weeks. And then, I want to talk about Ukraine as well for a moment here, guys, because I think a lot of us thought after the collapse of the Berlin Wall, the world would be a safer place. But when you look at what's happening now in Ukraine, it is so much worse than it was during the Cold War. And we lost a cameraman, another Fox photographer named Pierre Zakshevsky. He was outside Kiev documenting the advance of Russian troops in the early days of that war. There's Pierre, and he was hit in a missile strike and killed. And he was one of the bright lights in our industry who, like many of these people, including Miriam Daga, I heard from my friend yesterday, got so involved in the stories that they were covering that they ended up helping so many people in these war zones and humanitarian crises, much like Pierre, who helped a lot of people in Afghanistan when the Taliban came back to power just before the beginning of the Biden administration and just before Pierre then deployed to Ukraine. So, a lot to be thankful for those of us who have made it out of those situations. But hats off to those who continue day in and day out to shine a light on war and misery.
Oh my gosh, Amy, it's so brave and it's so necessary for the world to be able to see what's going on in these war zones. Your pictures, when I saw them yesterday, you had sent them to our producers, and I just happened to pop them up on my phone just casually, and they were breathtaking. I mean, part of it was such nostalgia for me because we had worked together at Fox while you were going into these war zones. And so I saw that picture of Adam and I was immediately struck by remembering working with him. And, I saw the picture of Pierre that you sent. And the question that I get, but I am not the intrepid war correspondent that you have been, but I do want you to answer this for viewers. Aren't you scared when you go into these war zones? How do you try to stay safe? What do you tell yourself as you report?
Absolutely, Alisyn. But I was sort of an accidental war correspondent. There were so few of us working in the overseas bureaus for Fox back in the day that we all sort of had to go, and I did want to go.
You're talking a lot about personal loss. Do you think the public understands the importance of the work that journalists do, including in war zones?
I think it's important that these journalists are remembered. I think it's important that their stories get out there. That's why I wanted to say a few words about Miriam, who I did not know. But these are people's lives that are ruined or cut down, often when they are very young, yet to be married, in many cases, yet to have seen life in its fullest. So I think probably they are dying along with so many civilians and others and soldiers. So maybe the significance of their lives gets lost in the shuffle, but they are incredibly brave and incredibly passionate. And I think that the only comfort, for example, that Pierre's family can take from his death, and his 59th birthday would have been last week, and we all sort of reconnect on that day. But I think it's that a lot of these people who do die in the line of duty die doing something that they really, really loved. And I think that is important for those who remain and have to move on without them, that these were people who were doing what they really loved to do. And in the case of these Palestinian journalists, for an existential story for them.
Well, Amy, we really appreciate you bringing this wide perspective to us of what it is like, what it's been like for you to be in some of these war zones. And without these dedicated journalists, we would not see the impact of some of these conflicts. And it for me, it goes without saying how important it is that they do have the bravery to go into these conflict zones and try to tell the world what's happening.
Absolutely. But the threats to their life and the risk to their life, and that 200 have been killed, is just way too much for this.
Right.
Our thanks to Amy, of course. So, all right. So after the break, we're going to talk about sports. So the Women's Pro Baseball League hits the field in 2026. We're going to chat with some of the women umpires who will keep the players in check. I kind of relate, I feel like.
How so?
Yeah, I feel like I keep some of the traffic here in check.
All right.
We'll see.
You're out.
It's all good.
Yeah,
I'm behaving myself.
We'll be right back.
Okay, welcome back to Connecting America. I have a different breakfast recommendation for all of you and you this morning.
What you do?
Yeah, I mean,
not the Alisyn?
Not the Alisyn. So the Alisyn is a spinach and feta omelet. Today, I'm going to mix it up, and I'm going to suggest broccoli with instead. You can add it, or you can just have broccoli and feta. And I'm sorry to blow your mind. The reason that I'm changing this up is because of this new research. There's a new study that says cruciferous vegetables like broccoli, cauliflower, and kale can cut your risk of colon cancer.
Oh, I'll eat it, but not in my eggs. Thank you.
You don't want a broccoli omelet?
No,
How about broccoli and cheddar? Forget feta. How about broccoli? No,
not in my eggs.
Really? I'm gonna order one up. Okay. Okay, because you don't need very much. I happen to love cruciferous vegetables, but you don't need a small portion. Scientists say the veggies contain these natural compounds that can help clean out cells and slow any cancer from growing.
We love that.
And colon cancer is the third most common cancer globally.
And hitting younger people too.
Yes, I know.
More
And that is
frequently, we're
curious
hearing.
why that's
Yeah.
happening. Anyway, there's 2 million cases each year. So eat broccoli this morning.
Order it up, Alisyn. I'll give it a try.
Will do.
Okay. Mark is with us here in the diner. He's roaming around talking to some guests this morning. Who have you got, Mark?
Hey, good morning. We're here on Connecting America, connecting with all sorts of Americans, including people here in the diner. I'm here with Rich Brown, right, from North Brunswick, New Jersey, and trusty waitress Trish Constantina. How are you this morning, Trish?
I'm great. I'm always great.
Excellent. So, Mr. Brown, what's on your mind this morning?
Well, concerning what area are you talking about? You're talking about Constitution? You're talking about state?
First thing you wake up in the morning, right? What do you think about the most? What bothers you the most?
Bothers me the most?
Mm-hmm.
Well, a long list, I guess.
Gotcha.
But, just navigating what am I going to do today? What's on the agenda? Things like that. Yeah.
Now, then there's issues that come to the fore in American life. One of them is about flag burning. There's all been controversy you could see throughout the 60s and other protests of people burning flags. Now it's come to the fore again because President Trump is saying essentially, we want to clamp down on flag burning, we want to essentially make it illegal. But there's also an argument, there's been Supreme Court decisions that say, hey, flag burning is constitutionally protected speech. What is your feeling about flag burning?
Well, Supreme Court, I don't know if flag burning is in the Constitution.
Right.
So basically, if President Trump wants to do that, he should go through Congress and make a law to fit the crime.
Right. Now, I mean, that's the funny thing about our Constitution, right? It's highly interpretive. You had the first Bill of Rights, the first 10 amendments, and then there have been subsequent amendments since.
Yeah.
Do you think that the Constitution should be flexible to deal with situations like flag burning?
Well, it's a matter of interpretation.
Right.
And you have 9 people determining it, and maybe it comes down to one person determining it,
Wow.
which is not the best.
Right.
So it should go through the president, and should go through the Congress
Right.
to do this with the Supreme Court.
Do you think that kind of balance, we always talk about the balance of power in this country. You've got the executive, the president, you've got the legislative branch, you've got the Congress, you've got the judicial. Do you think it all ultimately balances out in the end that works in a way that's best for the American people?
It does. It does balance out, but it takes such a long time.
Right.
And that's the problem.
Right. Do you think people, particularly in the age we're in now, all this stuff on the internet, Instagram, TikTok, do you think people have the patience for that process?
No, we're too fast.
Right.
I mean, the tri-state area, everything has to be done yesterday.
Sure.
You go down south, and everything is next week.
Yeah, exactly. But even then, everything's getting sped up for all of us.
Well, yeah,
Right.
it does, very, very, very much so.
Do you still think, though, that in a modern age, that slow, painstaking process at times, people losing patience, is the process still worth having?
It is, but there's a lot of little nonsense in there that could be avoided by stalling off.
Right.
And that's the problem. Even in the courts, you have somebody say is 85 years old,
Right.
and they have a suit going, and all the lawyers on the other side, they stall.
Right.
This guy's not going to make it.
Right.
So therefore, when he passes away, it goes through, and a lot less money that the person pays.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
No, there's a lot of that in our society now.
Yeah.
We know this. So, Mr. Brown, thank you very much for your time. We really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
All right. And now back to the anchor desk.
Mark,
Thank
that
you.
was great. Trish does it all. And I love that she says she's always good. I agree. She's just always in a good mood. That's a wonderful attitude.
We love that outlook. All right, a little nostalgia here. Do you remember the film A League of Their Own from 1992?
Yes.
Yeah, starred Tom Hanks, Gina Davis, Rosie O'Donnell. Madonna was in the film as well, telling the real-life story of All-American Girls Professional Baseball League, women who stepped up to play ball in the 40s while many men were away fighting in World War II. Beyond the comedy and the drama, it showed the struggles and determination of these athletes who fought for respect and equality and a place on the field.
I want to watch this again. It looks
it's a
really
classic.
good. Yeah, I know. It's just
Tom
reminding
Hanks
me
was
of
amazing.
how young everybody was. And I don't know. I want to watch that again. All right. So fast forward to 2025. The Women's Pro Baseball League is on its way. It is set to launch in 2026. The best players have been trying out for this league in Washington, D.C.
Yeah, but we're not going to talk to the players today. We're waiting on that. But we're going to be talking to some of the umpires, women who can call balls and strikes like nobody's business. Giving you a run for your money, Alisyn.
Okay, we'll see.
We have a few of them joining us this morning. We really appreciate you all being here. How exciting is this time for you to actually see this women's league forming?
It is super exciting. It's been a long time coming, and there are so many people behind the scenes who have been making this happen. Everything from finding the players, recruiting, the tryouts, and this entire weekend. It's been a 4-day process of women trying out, and then culminating with the game yesterday.
It sounds really exciting. Now, I mean, Kelly, I don't have to tell you, when we think of umpires, generally we think of men. So just tell us how you got into this.
I got into this because I was coaching baseball. So I was blessed with 3 sons. My dad was my coach growing up when I was playing baseball. And then after a long coaching career, one day walking home from the ball fields after practice, I saw 2 little league teams that didn't have an umpire there. And I told my sons, I said, I'll be home later on. And I went over and picked up some rusty gear from a bucket and put it on. And I'm sure I was like horrible, absolutely horrible. But that's how I got into it.
That's amazing.
And from the coaching side as well. I was coaching my son, and once he was going to play for the school, they told me, they're not going to want my opinion when he's playing high school ball, and I should come to the dark side. So I did.
We know that the first female umpire is in the major leagues now. Is that inspiring to you as well?
Absolutely. She's amazing, and she's inspired all of us. And just women across the board. Those of us who are a little older, those who are just starting out, she is inspiring women to just go for what they want to go for and kind of forget the naysayers and keep your head down, work hard, and reach those goals.
Sophia, what makes for a good umpire?
Sophia is not able to hear us right now, but we can ask
so
the
is
same
it
question.
You guys, okay, so any of you can answer that for me. What is the quality that makes a great umpire?
Oh, what is the quality that makes a great umpire?
A lot of grit, a lot of determination, a love for the game.
Patience. Patience, a lot of patience.
And good eyes.
Yeah, good eyesight, right?
Good eyesight.
Well,
depends on who you ask.
How are these games going to be set up in terms of how they might differ from the major leagues?
You want to answer?
Sure. This is women's professional baseball. So yesterday we had the culmination of 2 games where we had the women who were selected for the league playing in one of those 2 games yesterday afternoon. We were honored and excited to play in Washington Nationals Park yesterday. So that was the first time for the women as well as the officiating crew to be calling balls and strikes in a Major League Baseball park. It did tie in a little bit. I did have thoughts of Jen Powell and how she has, clawed and fought and, put her nose to the grindstone to get to the top.
Did you have some butterflies being there yesterday?
I don't know that it was butterflies. I think it was just more exhilaration, and walking out onto the field.
Definitely.
And how do you feel when the crowd disagrees with your call or a player disagrees? How do you handle that?
We're used to it. And, the funny thing is we have to remind people that we as umpires are the only neutral people on the field. A batter wants what he wants and a pitcher wants what he wants, and the coaches want everything for their team. But we're the only neutral people on the field, and our goal is that we make the call to the best of our ability.
That's where the grit comes in, right?
And we just have to let it roll off our shoulder.
Wow.
We've heard it all.
Yeah, ladies, this is great talking to you. Really cool. And thanks for explaining it to us. And we can't wait to watch now.
Play ball, ladies.
Yeah. Thanks for being here with us.
Awesome. That's great.
That's amazing. I like that a lot.
All right.
All right, let's
Where are
check
we
out.
going?
We're going to our national diner of the day.
Where?
So, well, this is very historic, Jim. You're going to love this. This is Mel's Drive-In. It's been around since 1947 in San Francisco and LA. And interestingly, this is what was featured in the movie American Graffiti, which we all remember.
Another
was
classic.
I mean, the diner was the epicenter of that movie. So it's known for its all-day breakfast plus burgers and shakes. And you might spot a celebrity once in a while in there if you're lucky. Look at that.
Ooh.
This looks good. I'm hungry again. We haven't even started our broccoli omelet that I promised. We need to do that. That looks delicious.
Speaking of celebrities, you were hobnobbing with a few last night. We're going to talk about that.
Oh,
bit,
yes.
right?
Yes, I was. And we'll be showing you my pictures from last night. I went to a premiere of the movie The Roses. So there were lots of very cool
That
celebrities
cast
there.
is amazing. All
Yeah,
right.
it was wonderful.
You know what? The Jumbotron is back
I'm
at
not
another.
sure I want the Jumbotron. to be back.
Yeah, at another Coldplay concert, Alisyn. The story doesn't end with the same way as the one with the couple that was discovered cheating on their spouses.
Mhm.
We all remember them.
Mhm.
We'll tell you what's going on now with Coldplay. We'll be right back.
All right. We an omelet now.
Yeah, we do.
Okay, let's.
Priscilla? All right. We want to take you to a concert that Coldplay had recently.
Yes, I hope you're not going to show the same video of that Jumbotron with the couple being outed.
This went a little differently.
Okay.
Here is some advice for free. As we all look on and see you go down, I advise you to get down on one knee.
How amazing is that? Chris Martin there, improvising, taking no chances. He caught a man about to propose to his girlfriend. At least that's what he was hoping was going on. So he serenades the couple, encouraged the man, as you heard, to get down on one knee. He also joked, just making sure this was a repeat of that awkward situation back in July when the concert Jumbotron caught that cheating couple, Alisyn.
Yeah.
Broke up their marriages. They lost their jobs. In this case, though, look at that. It's a happy ending since the woman did apparently say yes.
Oh, thank goodness. Jim, I'm so confused, I got to admit, about the Jumbotron. How is Chris Martin multitasking in this way? He is singing for Coldplay in front of tens of thousands of people and keeping an eye on the Jumbotron for proposals or cheating couples. I don't understand the
He
Jumbotron.
can multitask like no one's business.
Apparently.
And so can you.
Oh,
Yeah, you were
yes.
busy last night. Tell us where you were.
So I went to this wonderful premiere of a new movie. I think it comes out this Friday called The Roses. This is my son and me at the premiere.
Fun.
There's all sorts of paparazzi and celebrities behind us there. And The Roses, there's Andy Samberg, who is a fan favorite in my house. We
Hilarious.
love Brooklyn Nine-Nine. We loved him on SNL. We got a chance to say hi to him, and I think we scared him because sometimes my enthusiasm
a little
does
over the top
boil
for you?
over
Did
a
you make
little
a fool
bit.
of yourself
A little
in front
bit,
of Andy?
I think so. Alisyn Janney, who's just a phenomenal actress, she looked stunning last night. She's in the movie. So this is a remake of the 1980s War of the Roses movie with Kathleen Turner. And Kathleen Turner was there last night also. Yes. And so that was great. But let me just tell you, it stars Olivia Colman.
Olivia Colman is
Benedict
fantastic.
Cumberbatch. I mean, phenomenal actors.
The clips I've seen of them interacting in this film, amazing.
It's intense. It's a little dark. I would say it's a dark take on marriage, on the institution of marriage. But
Who else?
Kate
Sorry, I
McKinnon
interrupted you.
is in it.
Yep.
Andy Samberg, as I've said. And then it's directed by the wonderful director Jay Roach, who did Dumb and Dumber, who did Meet the Parents. And I got to know him during Bombshell, which was the movie about Fox and what was going on under Roger Ailes'
You
reign.
had some experience with that?
I did. So I got to know Jay during that time, and he's just a lovely, wonderful person. So yeah, I recommend The Roses, and it was really fun to
What
be
did
out.
your son think of it?
He was nervous. He was like, my hands are sweating, feel my palms, because he was about to see Andy Samberg, who we see on our television every day when we watch reruns of Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
That sounds like a fantastic night, though. What a cast. I'm looking forward to seeing The Roses.
Yeah.
All right. Let's check in with Mark, who's roaming the diner, talking to people here. Mark.
Right. All right. So we're here in the diner in the wonderful Sunrise Diner, New Jersey. You know, we should get a look around at people here in the diner, what's concerning Americans. And as we do that, we talk to people who are enjoying their morning coffee and eggs. How you doing, sir? What's your name?
I'd rather not give it. I don't want to be on TV.
Not a problem. What about you, man? Right. Well, you know, as we talk to other Americans around the diner, there's always people right now. They're about ready to order their eggs. So scrambled eggs it is this morning.
Yes, it is. Scrambled eggs.
Fantastic. What's your name?
Catherine.
Ray.
Okay, Ray.
And what's your name?
My name's Charles.
Gotcha.
All right.
So, you look around a diner, right? You see how important the role of women are in American diners. You know, the whole Jersey diner waitress, it's important in people's minds. Now, increasingly, they're thinking of the idea of having women umpires, women coaches, maybe even in time, women players. You know, what do you think of that idea?
Players only in certain sports. Football, no, definitely not.
Right.
Hockey, no, definitely not.
Because you think it's more like brutal physical contact?
Yes,
Right.
and that while that young girl is young today, she might want kids later on down in life, and
Yeah.
it does a lot on your body.
Yeah.
Okay.
I hear you. So then why is baseball different?
I don't know. It just is. It's not a contact really sport.
Got it.
Okay, football, you're in contact with that sport.
Got it.
Same thing with
What do you make of that?
I say if they want to play, let them all play with the girls, all girls. I mean, you got them in the military today.
Absolutely right.
I remember when they first came in, I used to go up next to a tree. Can't do that no more. I'm sure you understand that one.
Absolutely. So When you think this gets phased in over time, how do you think that you're fine with it, but how do you think the general public's going to react?
Why not?
Right.
Why not? They you can always turn the channel,
Right.
right?
What about the idea of baseball being America's in certain ways most traditional sport? They're talking about all sorts of making changes to baseball, even getting rid of the idea of the American League and the National League. What about the idea of women on the field for people who are traditionalists?
I don't see why not. But you know what broke my heart when Yankee Stadium, what was it, 486 feet center field,
Right.
and they brought it back.
Yeah.
That broke my heart.
Exactly. Some things can change and some things shouldn't.
Shouldn't change, and that
Right.
should not have changed.
Right. Well, what do you think? Are people going to be able to handle the change?
Yes, in America, they handle change. They follow. They really do.
Yeah. Do you think even though there's bumps in the road to the chance, like who knows, maybe they're going to have people do the umpiring in the beginning, it'll be phased in. Is it better just to make the change dramatically and have it go forward?
Why not? Just do it. If you're gonna do it, just
do it.
do it.
Just get it done.
Yeah.
Is that the attitude we should have change all across America when it's time for a change? Just do it?
Well, you got to change with the times,
Exactly.
right?
You know.
You got to adapt as you go along.
All right.
You know.
Thank you so much for sharing your time with us today.
Thank you.
Right?
Have a good day.
You too.
Thank you.
Back to the anchor desk.
Come back if you would over to the table because our broccoli omelet was just delivered. Jim's going to taste a bit of it.
Oh,
Mark,
okay.
I got to tell you, I want you to sit down because I really feel like we've been hazing you, because the man on the street or person on the street interview, which you've been doing, it's an art form, and you're a print guy, okay?
Right.
And so we have sent you out to just out into baptism by fire to go talk to people, and we promised real conversations. Oh, we're getting them.
You're getting them.
Yeah, we're getting them.
I mean, sometimes when you think about what's going on
Here's
in America,
Mark. Oh, hi.
it can be trial by fire.
Yes, that's what's been happening.
And that's what it is. It's your job, no matter what kind of reporter you are. You have to talk to strangers for a living.
Yeah, you have to be comfortable with that.
Why be afraid
Yeah.
of people?
Yeah, you're doing it
You go
really.
up, you ask them, and you find out what's really important.
You're doing it really well, and
You know what else is trial by fire, Mark?
What's that?
Me trying the broccoli and the eggs.
I recommend the broccoli omelet. Try it.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Delicious.
It's not bad, but everything here at the Sunrise Diner is good.
Yeah.
Really, when it comes to their eggs.
But this is good for you.
I know. So, all right.
Now, see, when I get my omelet today, I
Okay,
can
Mom.
promise you, I'm going to get an actual side of broccoli. I want it on camera.
Okay.
When I mean, so
We can
my
deliver
mom-
that.
Hi, Mom. How you doing? You're going to see me eating vegetables
Okay.
this morning, and so is America.
All right, guys. Yeah, you've heard it. It was promised here. Mark's gonna eat some vegetables. We have
Correct.
a lot more stories and news to cover when we come back.
Back,
Okay.
It's really not
See you in a
bad.
minute.
It's not bad.
Welcome back to the Sunrise Diner in Roselle Park, New Jersey. That commercial break wasn't long enough. I needed to eat my omelet.
I know. And I have a confession to make,
Okay,
Alisyn
what is
and
it?
Mark. My regular scrambled eggs are somehow lackluster this morning.
After you
I
tasted
think
the
I'm a convert.
broccoli.
Yep.
Well.
Yep.
There's always
He's-
Tabasco sauce for that.
Yeah,
true.
you can layer it up with that, but the veggie wasn't bad in there.
No, that's good.
Okay.
You promised you were going to eat a vegetable. Is it happening now?
Listen, if the waiter comes over and I order it,
Oh, you're
America's going to say.
Oh, you're not going to just have a bite of this? Let's do it. Okay, guys.
All right, there
Have
you
you
go.
ever had a vegetable, Mark? I mean, how new is this?
Yes, I have.
That's broccoli.
Delicious.
Mark,
I may not be confident, but I'll still take it.
it's good, right? Or are you faking?
Swallow it.
This is a weekday clean
We're
here on
really-
Connecting America.
We're
You
really,
do what you have to do.
we
when you
share a
connect with
lot
America.
here at the well done. We share a lot here at the
Good stuff.
Sunrise Diner, including conversation with everyone around the diner. So even though we are in the New York metro area, coming to you from Roselle Park, we'd like to share stories from around America in small town America. So today we go to rural Georgia, and there's an art gallery there like none we've ever seen before. So here's reporter Chris Knight.
This junkyard turned roadside attraction in Alto, Georgia is an unexpected art gallery. Welcome to the School Bus Graveyard. This mural says game over, but really for these old retired buses, they've taken on a whole new life here. Amazing murals full of colorful details and humor grace the grills, bumpers, hoods, and bodies of old buses and cars. Look at the sun and the stained glass windows. This is neat. Mechanic Walter Wade is the third generation in his family to call the school bus graveyard home.
Yes, it is my home, and it's always been an adventure.
Walter grew up here and remembers when the first school buses came onto the property. They were used to build a fence line to keep thieves out of the junkyard. An artist asked to paint on one of the buses, and the rest is history. Ignore the signs that say "Get Lost" because visitors are welcome to marvel at all the artwork too.
Look at that, that's cool.
As long as you pay the entry fee and obey the rules.
Don't paint on anything, don't break anything. A lot of people love it because they come a long ways to see it because it's never ever the same no matter what time of year you come.
As the saying goes, at the school bus graveyard, one man's junk is another man's masterpiece. In Alto, Georgia, I'm Chris Knight.
That was very cool.
I love that. Excuse me.
Okay, I'll take this read. This is the occupational hazard of human breakfast. While we anchored, though, that was the deal we've struck here, and I mean, with our producers, and we're psyched for this.
Yeah.
So our question of the day to you while you eat your breakfast is, what's your biggest concern about sending your kids back to school? Is it the cuts to free lunch? Is it that there are now a lot of vaccine opt-outs around the country from parents, as we're hearing about because there's a lot of mixed messaging coming out of Washington, D.C.? Is it doing away with the DEI mandates? People don't know what to expect in terms of curriculum necessarily. Is it school security? We've been reporting on Villanova and what's happened at the college level. There's been 2 swatting incidents. So anyway, today it sounds like the vaccine opt-outs are what is most concerning to our viewers.
Because I think there's a lot of confusion about what to do.
Yeah.
In terms of, do I vaccinate my kids for all back to school vaccinations that we are all so used to, that we've grown up with? You know, the MMR vaccine and all, getting you ready for school meant, getting that needle in your arm.
Yes, but there are more for this generation than
Yes,
we
there
had.
are.
And
Yes.
so, parents are wondering if their kids need all of them.
Right.
Yeah.
And the difference between what the federal government is saying, what the American Academy of Pediatrics is saying about specifically COVID-19 and
Right.
how younger children should or shouldn't be vaccinated.
Yeah. So Mark, we've been sending you out into the fire here of the diner. I want to check it out.
Please do.
I'm hearing a lot of stuff happening here. I'm going to take out my IFB, so I'm not going to be able to hear you guys. So just shout, okay?
Yeah.
Let's just use that.
All
And
right.
I just want to go over. I like that Trish, our waitress, is now. Oh, thank you. Is sitting at she's not only a waitress, she's also a diner. That tells you that the food is good. If a waitress will eat at the restaurant, that tells you the food is good.
There you Grab your microphone. All right.
Okay.
Alisyn, on the move.
I'm on the move. Hi. Hey, Trish. Hi. Can I mind if I cozy up? This is interesting to me. Hi, dear. I love that you're not only a waitress, but you're a diner here, which tells me the food's good.
Well, yeah, I've been eating here since I was a little girl.
You have? This is your hometown diner.
Yes.
Before you ever worked here.
Yes.
That's amazing. I love it here because this place has been here for decades.
Yeah, it used to be the Midas Touch.
You did the Midas Touch Diner?
Yes.
What are you having? Because that will direct everyone.
This is our one of our waitresses and counter people, Lily. This is her breakfast, Lily's Oreo pancakes.
Oh.
It's on the specials.
Oreo pancakes?
Lily's Oreo pancakes.
There's
They are delicious.
Oreo cookies in these pancakes.
Oh, yes, there are. And there was
I
big
thought those
Oreo
were
over there a
blueberries.
second. Oh, no. You want to try it?
Yes,
Go for it.
obviously, but I mean, this is her breakfast. But where's your breakfast?
No, that's what it's called.
Oh, it's
It's
called.
named after Lily because this is her favorite breakfast.
I see. It's
And
called.
I'm eating it. Absolutely.
But you're not eating
I ate
enough
half
of it.
already. I'll get more.
Are
You
you
eat on
kidding?
camera? Like, I'm not shy. It's not like anything bothers me.
So for breakfast, you have an Oreo pancake, Trish.
Once in a while.
Trish, you never cease to amaze me. Every day I learn something new about you, and I'm always deeply impressed.
No, I'm always happy to see you guys.
Yeah, thanks.
Terrible.
Thank you for talking, eating, dining. Okay. Oh, I have to go. Okay, they need me back here. All right. Yes. I was down Oreo pancake.
You know what? We're gonna do that when the show is over. It's wrapping up. I want to taste it too. We love the food here at the Sunrise Diner. We love that you're with us every morning here from 7 to 9 a.m. Here's where you can find us, connect with us all over social media: Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all of that information right there on your screen. And that's going to do it for us today, Alisyn. I'm glad that you got up to travel through the diner.
Me too.
You've been itching to do that, to talk to people here.
A New Jersey diner is my natural habitat. I feel very comfortable here. All right, guys, we'll see you tomorrow. Thanks so much for joining us on Connected.